Jordan said I was putting a little pep in my step pre-show to game it up. Can't say what I did because the YouTube algorithm will shut it down. I'll bring it up later.
Just a little pep.
I'm just talking trash. As you stumble into podcasts out there in podcast land, you've taken a detour. Maybe it's not the podcast you're looking for, but it's the podcast you've discovered. You stumbled into the Binge-Watchers podcast with yours truly, Johnny Spoiler, joined as always by the Savage Scream Queen, and it's Scream Queen season.
It is.
It's Jordan Savage. So anyway, I would like to say that we're bringing like the best horror movies to watch. We're trying to embrace the season where everybody pretty much in the audience is looking for horror movies. We're going hard, and we want to be your best source to do this. However, Jordan's kicking back watching Harry Potter. I thought she'd be diving into some real dangerous materials.
He's like, tisk,
to support how savage she is. However, she's texted me, I'm just sitting here with the bubbly watching Harry Potter. Then we had a mini discussion about which hat, where the hat would sort you into what house. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I guess you don't like Harry Potter. However, one could argue Prisoner of Azkaban is horror related. It has a werewolf and the Dementors. So there's something in that.
That is a good spooky one.
We'll see if we can get Jordan to clean up her act here.
I know, right? Shame on me.
Right after the theme song. Yes, that's right, Jordan.
Shame. Shame.
Watching Harry Potter. It's a video game now, too, I think.
Oh, my God.
Do I have the Harry Potter box set? Can't confirm or deny.
I bet you do.
Plead the fifth, y'all.
Crack open a cold box of wine or pour something cold on ice because it's the Binge-Watchers podcast.
Oh boy. Usually I interrupt the theme song right after it cracks open the can or drink or whatever your imagination takes you. But I let the play thing, how special you are tonight, folks. I'll let the whole thing play out. Home video headline. Let's see. Jordan, did you hear about this haunted swimming pool movie called Night Swim?
No.
Okay. The closest I think I've seen to a haunted swimming pool in a movie is probably that movie where the invisible killer chases you, like it's like a body movie, right? A body horror or something, because it's like a sexually transmitted phantom. I don't know. There's that thing that follows you. Yeah, It Follows or whatever. Yeah,
that's a good one.
Which is like one of the coolest horror movies ever. And they have like a swimming pool in the third act. And also in the creepy backyard with the neighbors that are always scoping out the main character. Dang. And now I'm just thinking, like, replaying that movie in my mind. Oh, the cat people has an attack at a swimming pool. Let the Right One In has an attack on a swimming pool with the vampire girl, and she beats up the bullies. But, like, how scary a pool is on screen. I mean, a lot of people freak out and associate pools with, like, underwater movies, right? They still have, like, the fear of sharks in public swimming pools or whatever, right? Yeah. The Jaws effect, right? But to have a movie just make the swimming pool outright haunted.
A spooky pool.
I mean, I guess it's possible, right? Like, oh, wait, there's also a haunted swimming pool in the third Poltergeist movie. I love that freaking movie. It takes place in a, like, apartment building inside of a skyscraper. And then the hauntings all happen in the building. So at one point there is a thing with the swimming pool. Yeah. Ooh, what a great movie for the season 2. We should look that up. It's not the favorite among obviously probably the original Poltergeist like outweighs the popularity of Poltergeist 3, but I have a soft spot for sequels. You know what? How I think my brain got warped for sequels is because they probably played the sequels more on TV than they did the originals.
Makes
Because
sense.
sequels tend to cost more and make less until they go
Right.
to like back in the day, video rental rights or like TV rights to have the TV channels pay to rescreen the movies, right? So
Right. Yeah, it makes sense since they would be like less successful than the first one. So it's like why they
they
air
would
on
show them
TV
more,
a little
right?
bit more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to try to make the money back. They would show the
Yeah.
sequels more. Yeah, but there's definitely a cult following out there for Poltergeist 3, undoubtedly, no doubt. We actually in podcast history we covered like a series of the threequels, and that was one of them. Like one of the entries was Poltergeist 3. This is like, guys, you'd have to go digging through the internet to find, the Poltergeist 3 episode or Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3 actually, which is funny because we're talking about later on a Texas Chainsaw movie. However, this is all unraveled because of Night Swim. This whole diatribe, this whole tirade. So I'm interested. I guess that's what I'm saying. Right?
I'm ready. I'm ready to see it.
There's a movie called The Frightners, which is like kind of a horror comedy. It's Peter Jackson, who of course made Lord of the Rings, and we watched his original movie Bad Taste on here a few weeks ago. But there's a rumor mill swirling the rumors again about The Frightners coming back as like a new movie. Previously, we had reported on our show, like, I don't know, again, you'd have to go to like the basement sub files of this podcast to find it. But like we had talked about that they were going to maybe adapt The Frightners into a TV show. But now like that's off the shelf or that's out of development. And now they're saying like the new rumor is just, I feel like maybe they just are mistakenly talking about the same remake that's canceled, but now all the bloggers or whatever, or all the article sites are all talking about like, oh, there's going to be a Frightners remake and it'll be a movie this time. The Frightners is good. Like Michael J. Fox's character has an accident and then he can see ghosts and stuff like that. But then there's a serial killer ghost who didn't finish his killing spree or whatever and wants to finish his killing spree. Spoiler alert, if you haven't seen The Frightners, it's from the 90s, I think. Maybe 99. It's like early CGI. It's like how Peter Jackson learned CGI so then he could do Lord of the Rings. He was doing effects with his little anyway. I love how tonight's home video headlines have like spurred all these little
1,000 thoughts. Yeah.
Just like running these things through. Anyway, I would watch it. I'd be in it, man. The Frightners is a good movie. Anyway, go back, look at The Frightners. Maybe there'll be a show. Maybe there'll be another movie. Who the hell knows? Totally Killer is already on Amazon Prime. We were talking about that a few weeks ago as well. It's basically like a slasher film, but then the girl goes back to the 80s when her mom and her mom's friends were attacked by killers. Does it sound like The Final Girls? Maybe, but The Final Girls was about someone that goes into the movie that her mom is in as a teenager, like a teen star, and then they're trapped in like a Friday the 13th style horror movie. Which one is better? I'll tell you later. If you stick around for later in the episode, I've watched Totally Killer, and I'll totally review it for you, but that's later. First, we're going to give Jordan some time now to hit me back for all the Harry Potter jokes I threw out earlier. She's going to tell you about tonight's movie, and she's going to drop some savage stats. Although I will say I forgot to tell her about Nobbins. Technically, he's the hitchhiking cannibal brother from the first movie. I don't know. I know Jordan has seen the last Texas Chainsaw with us because we watched the Netflix one, but I don't know if she's seen the whole series, and it's a little confusing because the cannibal family changes their relatives in every movie, and brothers at work killed are back, and other ones are introduced, and the family changes their names in several of the movies. The original continuity has like 3 movies, then the fourth changes the name of the family. Then there's like 2 more reboots, and then a remake, and then a sequel to the remake. So what are they up to, like 9 or 11? Who the hell knows?
It's always when I demand for a flow chart. I always want to see it,
Yeah, what's funny about the Netflix one, that we covered that actually last year too. We're just like going through podcast memory now. Like,
yep.
But we all gave that one pretty good praise, and that one's available on Netflix, and it's actually like a direct sequel to the original. So if you get just kind of like exhausted from all the sequels and trying to connect the dots, or you just don't, or you're like, I can't consume that much Texas Chainsaw, I'm with you, pal. Like, just I'll explain that opinion later too in a little while. Just stick around. I'm trying to make sure you listen to more than 8 minutes. What? I'm just going to tease you the whole night.
Well,
sorry, Jordan. I had tried to turn the mic over and then I kept rambling.
I can do the synopsis, right? So tonight we watched Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. It is about a DJ that is stalked by Leatherface and his twisted family. Meanwhile, a former Texas lawman is out for revenge. So some savage stats for tonight's movie, starting off with what you had just pointed out, nubbins. The corpse that Chop Top and Leatherface carry around with them is affectionately called nubbins. Also appearing on the original cover art is that of the hitchhiker from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1974, Nubbin Sawyer. So definitely makes a few appearances in this movie.
It's almost like they made a puppet out of the corpse and they carried around the whole movie. It's like, basically.
Yeah. I thought that was like such an interesting bit in the very beginning too, because it's like Leatherface, but he's got like nubbins in front of him. So I'm like, what? I don't know which one is he, but then he reveals himself. So, anyways, according to IMDb, director Toby Hooper and co-writer of the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1974, Kim Hinkle, originally had the idea for a sequel that would feature an entire town of cannibals and also be a satire of the film Motel Hell 1980, which itself was a satire of the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The title of that sequel was to be Beyond the Valley of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but the studio forced considerable changes to be made to the screenplay, even hiring a new screenwriter, and the result of those changes are what became of Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2.
Okay, time out. Okay, so that's pretty interesting. Like, I feel like a title like Beyond the Valley of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is like existential. It's more of like a thinking Wes Anderson version of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That's what that title sounds like anyway. But like, well, there's Valley of the Dolls, which is like a classic 60s movie, and then Beyond the Valley of the Dolls. So obviously the title's like a play on those movies, whether the plot would tie into those two or not. What else did I want to say? The whole thing about no, I guess that's it. Sorry, you made me think of something else, but whether it's a satire on Motel Hell, I didn't know that. Yeah,
that this one would be the satire.
That they're in the conception they were trying to parody a movie that took after Texas Chainsaw. The only direct connection I can draw is like a kooky couple in Motel Hell like kills their guests and tries to cook them and serve them to the other people at their diner.
Right.
I think they have a diner at the motel.
Like the cannibal family in this one.
Exactly. Yeah. So like the same thing. There's like a Texas award-winning barbecue made by a family of cannibals, right? Anyway.
Right. So the family group shot, I thought this was pretty interesting. The family group shot, as seen in the advertisements, posters, and video covers, uses the same positioning as the promotional group shot for the movie The Breakfast Club, 1985. I could feel like I could just see it.
It's a killer poster. So all the high schoolers in this infamous like John
Breakfast
Hughes comedy,
Club,
The Breakfast Club, which is one of my. It's like in my top 10 movies of all time. It's in the top few. As I often catch Jordan saying this is her favorite podcast of the year, I often say, this movie's in my top 25.
Right.
If every movie we covered was in my top 10 or top 5, I would have too many top 5s or whatever. But I love The Breakfast Club. And the fact that the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 poster, I mean, you used to sell a movie with the poster art, right? That's how you can get movies financed back in the day. That's what represented the movie on a conceptual level. And it's what pre-sold the movie tickets or whatever, to the audience. Like, killer movie art was everything. And so, when Texas 2 parodied Breakfast Club, it was kind of like probably set the tone that maybe Texas 2 would have a little bit of comedy in it than the other massacres, right? So it definitely set itself apart. But it's really funny that it takes after it's a mockery of the Breakfast Club thing. Anyway, I'm just saying the art is iconic.
Right. Well, and too, like the point you're making is that it would like set the tone for the movie. And like you and I going into this, at least I don't have any sort of conception of what the movie's going to be like. And so like that's kind of what they did to like tease you a little bit. And now I'm going into
I'm
this
kind of a
blind.
jerk. I made a safe bet that you hadn't seen Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 before tonight, so I was like, oh yeah, I'll get her going. We'll see what she thinks about all this stuff.
For sure. Yeah. Stay tuned to hear what our favorite bits and how we rate it.
Favorite bits.
Yeah.
And they're not body parts. Well, I mean, I guess it could be actually. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on to some more savage stats. We have Dennis Hopper thought this was the worst movie he's ever been in. He also later said the same thing about Super Mario Bros. 1993.
This will be a controversial hot take, but we stumbled across him in another movie that never got released. We covered that, right? The Dennis Hopper, Jodie Fisher movie, right? We covered that.
Yes.
Where he plays like a hitman and he's chasing after a witness to a crime, played by Jodie Foster, and it's this romance movie. We covered it. Go back and look it up. Anyway, the only point I'm bringing up is he seems to play an unhinged psychopath who doesn't like the movies in every single one of his movies. like
me saying that this is my favorite episode of every podcast that we do.
Yeah. My favorite Dennis Hopper actually is probably one that he forgot about because he goes all the way back to Easy Rider. So he is like a dazed hippie actor, but he's also considered like one of the most acclaimed dazed hippie actors. He plays a movie, I think it's called Far Out, where Keith Sutherland is his son, who's like an FBI agent, and his dad's like an ex-hippie reformed like activist or something, right? So his dad's on the run, from some crime in the 60s, some protest or whatever. And it's obviously a buddy comedy, crime comedy, whatever. Probably people are like, what movie is that? But I think Dennis Hopper plays the dad, who was like the 60s guy. But if you just compare the two movies that we watched him in, you'd be like, yeah, Dennis Hopper, you're just a weird guy. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that the movies are bad that you're in. It's just like, yeah, we watched crazy Dennis Hopper. You would almost just say, like, is he crazy in every movie? Because we went from that one movie, and he's pretty eccentric in this movie,
Very eccentric in this movie. Yeah.
And then and then there's that David Lynch movies in Blue Velvet where he's sucking the oxygen. I'm pretty sure that's him. I should probably look that up. I don't know. If I screw that up, I'll be in trouble. All the movie fans will roll over.
Yeah.
The ones that are dead. Let me check. Keep going, Jordan.
Yeah, Caroline Williams wanted to make a strong impression for her audition for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. So when she was called in, she went to the end of the hallway and she ran screaming into the room, even pulled the director's chair out to barricade the door when she was like screaming and doing her scene. IMDb quotes her as saying she didn't know that they would actually be chasing her with real chainsaws on set. So, I mean...
Yeah, so that's a couple crazy things. Like, obviously you can see like why she won with her audition, right? But she screams. I would say that she screams more in this movie than she has lines of dialogue. I think.
Yeah.
Here's the okay. I have not really watched this movie with an adult sensibility. If I'm an adult at all, I don't know. I've aged long enough to be one. I don't know if that matters, but. This time I was annoyed by the amount of time that she spent screaming. And I really thought, like, do you think the script says scream, 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 page 47, scream, scream, continued next scene, next page, scream, scream. You know what I mean? Like she seems to scream a lot.
Yeah.
It is kind of nuts that they use real chainsaws to chase these people down. However, I do remember that they also went cheap at this one haunted house when we were little kids. One dude chased my little brother, and my little brother was like hyperventilating. It probably is like real trauma. So when he plays this episode back, it's going to be great.
Yeah, it's so funny.
Vroom vroom, or whatever the chainsaw noise is. He like tapped the window with a chainsaw, and clearly it was a real chainsaw because it like skidded off the edge of our mother's car, and like obviously it became a real problem.
Yeah,
for car owners and the haunted house, but for us. I mean, my brother was just, we're talking like tears that shake your body. That's how many tears are, you know what I mean?
Man,
like
you got your money's
worth. So much
worth,
dehydrated afterwards.
Oh yeah. You got your money's worth though.
But he was like probably like 6 or 7. So it's one.
Oh, that's too young. She's also appeared in second installments of several popular horror franchises. Recently, she was in Renfield and 10 Minutes to Midnight. a total Scream Queen status.
Yeah, she's including it up to Texas Chainsaw Massacre too.
Interesting.
She's in a couple other ones, but I was just like, I'm not even gonna look up her IMDb. We're telling you so many things.
Yes.
Look it up.
We're almost wrapped up with the Savage stats. We got co-star Bill Moseley, who plays Chop Top, is also a horror icon known for The Devil's Rejects, House of a Thousand Corpses, and Night of the Living Dead 1990. He even made a short film parody of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre called Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The short film got him noticed.
Manicure. Texas Chainsaw Manicure. So.
Oh, okay.
Typo.
Oh, in the notes, y'all. Texas Chainsaw Manicure, which is what got him noticed for this movie, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. So that's the stats.
Okay, so we'll be right back with favorite bits after these messages. Let me get back on the ball here and see what we're doing. Thank you for being so savage, Jordan.
So savage.
Here it is. Okay. Love to Get Media is a small family-run shop of music and movies. You can get boxes of subscriptions of videos, vinyls, and video games for music and movie lovers. They got tens of thousands of movies. You can pick the size of your box and a list of 20-plus genres. They got funny stuff, scary stuff, and they got comedy stuff. I already said comedy. Said that twice. Dramatic stuff. Sorry, folks. They got every genre. They also have video game boxes. You can pick your console, your favorite type of games. Pick from 30-plus genres of games. They also have digital codes if you just want to try it out one time and start watching in seconds. Our listeners can get 15% off with promo code BINGE. You go to loveagainmedia.com/binge. Check that out. Also, Screambox has released the horror comedy Heebie-Jeebie TV. It's going to start screaming and streaming on October 13th. It's a hyperactive anthology, which is like a multi-dimensional cable box. It's kind of like a parody, similar to Pee-wee's Playhouse, Goosebumps, Rick and Morty. And they credit I Think You Should Leave Now, but I don't know if that's fair. More on that later. Anyway, Heebie-Jeebie TV is out on October 13th on Screambox. And there's like a whole month of screaming things on Screambox. We'll be sure to tell you about them. Now back to the podcast. Already in progress with Jordan Savage and her favorite bits from Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Let's find out if they actually are body parts. We'll find out.
I'd probably say that one of my favorite bits is when Stretch, that's her name, right? In the movie.
DJ Stretch.
DJ. She's like being initially chased down by Leatherface. Leatherface has now broken into the room that she's barricaded herself in, and she's like trying to escape.
It's like a beer cooler. They have a restaurant style like wine and beer cooler at a radio station. They have a commercial freezer at a radio station. I'm not going to put out the probability of whether or not you would have a freezer like that in a public radio station, but we'll find out.
I don't know. Maybe. Do love the product placement though. It's very meticulous in this one scene. But Leatherface is just...
But appropriately so. If you were in a freezer, you would see probably name brand sodas and beers, right?
Yeah, I mean, but it's like, it's more of like this metal trough filled... Like,
you mean the beer? Oh, yeah, there is like a beer cooler in there that has like specific... Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Leatherface is getting after with the chainsaw, and it's just a very interesting bit because obviously the chainsaw is like in the ice, like stretches.
Oh, hold on. She's talking about the scene where the girl convinces Leatherface not to kill her because he gets horned up, and then he's really confused because usually when he gets horned up, somebody dies because he expresses himself with the chainsaw. She manages, spoiler alert, to not get hacked to pieces. By changing and confusing his horniness into something other kind of feelings. And it's a very... Jordan's very politely dancing around this.
It was a very interesting
the sexual
moment.
intensity of the scene. Yeah, they find a reason for a woman to be, I don't know, at least thigh down into a cooler filled with ice and beer. And then teasing... to save her own life, the chainsaw from a murderer. Again, at this point, you're so annoyed by how many times she screams.
She's screaming.
You're not really caring about the exploitation of the sexuality in order for her to survive by using her feminine wiles.
Honestly,
that's a 1950s term that men created for no just kidding away. Give the history lesson of that terminology.
Even her trying to escape that room, I'm like, he's in the other side of the recording studio at this point. Like, run and open up the. I don't know. There was a couple times where I was like, what is she doing? But obviously, where the cannibalist family lives is just incredibly cool. I wish I could be a place that I could like go venture in without there being cannibals, and it looked pretty interesting.
Like, you want to visit Texas as long as there aren't cannibals?
I mean, there probably is, no matter what. But I don't know. There was.
So your favorite scene is, what are they doing with this chainsaw?
What are they doing with this chainsaw? I don't know. Let me tell you, this whole movie was rather memorable for me. So, as soon as it started, once you get Chop Top in there, he's freaking me out. Like, was just so cringe. It was super spooky. And
I know, the appeal of Texas Chainsaw Massacre is they're always out in the country on like the farm or something, right?
Right.
But I love that this one goes into like the city and they're killing yuppies on the freeway in their, BMW or whatever, right? And like that's the opening. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it gets recorded on the radio, so you kind of feel like, yeah, what if you brought these wild countryside maniacs into like downtown LA? The only other thing I can relate it to is we watched that movie Neon Maniacs where they came out from under the bridge. Same thing, like they were, mutants on a subway train going after normals. That's one of my favorite bits. Yeah, that, and when her friend, so there, it's a very small radio station. Again, I feel like it's supported like public radio because there's a lot of extra censorship levels that they're going through in their equipment. It seems like a really small radio outfit, right?
Right.
Her audio technician wakes up later in the amusement park home of the cannibals in this movie because again, they're not in the farm this time for some reason. What's funny is like they must have owned it's okay. I feel like maybe this family has like properties all across the state, and when it gets too hot in one area, they go to another one. But that's a theory suggested by several movies, just because like they have a farmhouse in the first one, and the remakes have a farmhouse, and the new one they go back to the farmhouse, and then this one they live in an amusement park, but underneath it's like a mausoleum. So you would suggest that their family has been there for hundreds of years, right? Based on the number of victims and the skeletons. What was my point? Oh, so her audio technician, who we thought got murdered at the radio station, wakes up half dead and half skinned alive in like another cooler that she gets stuck in. And he's there with Stretch, and they played up for comedy, right? Because he still has like his same Texas attitude, and he's like trying to help her. And then at one point, she realizes she's wearing his face, and he realizes his face is being worn by somebody else, and that like he just had like that realization, like, oh, I'm alive, but I'm not about to be.
Right. What is his name?
Oh,
do you remember? It was like CT or something. Yeah. It was some.
Yeah, because everybody has a nickname, right? Like the DJ has a nickname, and then she gives other people nicknames. And she was calling him like TC or something like that.
Something like that. My favorite part of it all.
She calls Dennis Hopper's character Lefty because he happens to be a former, Texas lieutenant or some law enforcement lieutenant.
Yeah. But tailing off of your bit where, CT or whatever his name is comes to, and he like stands up, right? Yeah. And he's like doing his best to kind of comfort her in his last moments because he knows he's going to die. And he, passes away, takes his last breath. And like, she turns around and says, I always loved you, CT. I was like, what the heck? Huh? Since when? She denied him like 20 minutes ago. I didn't hear that.
That happened?
Yes, go back and look. Dang. And I was like, she just denied him a date like 20 minutes prior in the movie because he wanted to like take her out for
I guess she's going based on slim pickings because the other options are, the chainsaw wielding cannibal has fallen in love with you and his brothers.
Yeah, thing one, thing two, and thing three. Yeah. Oh my God, no. Yeah, I guess so. I guess she had to go with the only best option, which.
Although I was sitting here, not that I want to like, I I want to think about the sex life of Leatherface or his family members, but
Ugh.
there's so many brothers, and they have grandparents that they bring back in every movie. Sometimes they're parents, sometimes they're grandparents, and they're like half dead until you feed them fresh blood. But somebody's breeding all these Leatherface and companies, right?
Yeah, it's with
So
each other.
at one point they would have to let women into the clan, right? We're talking about biology, basic biology.
This is
Especially
like
in this movie, it's the 70s and 80s. They didn't really think beyond, like, you know, it's
This
not a
is
science fiction movie where you're growing people in a pod. They have to be
It's-
born.
literally the Funhouse version of The Hills Have Eyes. Like,
Oh, that's Wes Craven.
just
yeah.
the concept.
But I mean, again, it's well, okay. So the name Sawyer for Texas Chainsaw Massacre may have come from, like, what is the name of the Scottish clan? There's I don't know if it's real Scottish history or if it's like an urban legend, but they talk about this clan from the Middle Ages that was like lived in a cave in Scotland or something like that, and supposedly dabbled in cannibalism. And the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is like supposedly based on a series of crimes here and there, or the Ed Gein again, you know, whatever, in Americana. But what's interesting, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre wants you to think it's real every time, because each movie, most of the movies have like the newsreel, the beginning headlines or whatever.
Right.
We're on the concept of whether or not the cannibals are inviting women into the cannibal clan, right?
Yes.
That's how we got to that. I was like, how do we get to the point where I'm talking about news clips at the beginning of the Texas Chainsaw movies? I guess we should just rate the movies,
Okay.
which Jordan kind of gave it away maybe about 20 minutes ago, where she sounded very positive about Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. And again, she neglected to text me anything about. The only thing she texted me this week was Harry Potter.
Yeah. What?
Actually, no. Actually, it's not even true. We actually talked about Harry Potter.
We did.
The
And we talked
old-fashioned
about
way.
another
It was a
movie
phone
that
call.
we both watched too.
Oh yeah. I don't
But
remember that part.
let's rate it. We've got
Yeah. Binge now. Oh, yeah.
binge later, or binge
Yeah.
never. Binge now, put it at the top of your list, stop, drop, and roll, and go watch it immediately. Binge later, just get around to it. It's on the list, but you'll make some time for it whenever the time comes. Binge never is you can never get your time back for that movie. So I would have to say binge later for me.
Okay.
Yeah. I do like the campiness. It's like supposed to be cheesy on purpose, but there was some emotional roller coasters, I would say. It made me feel unhinged multiple times, which was probably the intent. But yeah, it was a roller coaster ride. And then I felt like there wasn't a whole lot of resolve at the end, which I thought was interesting. But what are your thoughts, John?
They're never really resolved. I mean,
I guess that's
we
the point.
know how Nubbins got created, because if you watch the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, he's chasing the girl Sally at the end of the movie, and like all her friends are gone, and then like Leatherface is also chasing him too, but then like Nubbins is the one who gets thrown over by the semi truck that shows up at the end of the movie, and then of course Sally comes back for the Netflix sequel because it's a direct sequel to the first one. And again, maybe they're saying they copied the story device from having a Halloween sequel that erases all the other sequels and then goes back to the original, like they did with Laurie Strode and Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween. But I wavered because I was annoyed by her scream this time. Although I thought Caroline Williams is like one of the. There is only one better person. I didn't write our name down. I should look it up for next week and apologize. The actress in Leatherface, which is Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, is just named Leatherface, is the third sequel. They repeat the thing where they still, I mean, every single one of these movies, the final girl is always like nailed to the table and they're always trying to eat her at the family dinner, usually. It's like, but I feel like that's the initiation, right? Because even at the end of Texas 2, the vague ending that you're talking about is like, maybe the brother's grenade killed Dennis Hopper's character, but he was having a chainsaw battle.
Right.
Which also, well, again, an iconic chainsaw battle before Mandy with Nicolas Cage. I don't know how many movies have chainsaw battles, but not many.
This is true. And he was wielding them chainsaws.
Yeah. I mean, there's Evil Dead with Ash, right? And the first Evil Dead might have been made before Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness came after Texas Chainsaw 2. I'm not sure where Evil Dead 2 and Texas Chainsaw 2, I feel like they came out about the same time or around the same time. I don't know which one comes first to give it full credit, but not a lot of chainsaw fights in movies. Of course, like I said, Ash of the Evil Dead is known for being like the chainsaw anti-hero, but chainsaw fight like a sword fight? No. Like dueling chainsaws, this is pretty unique for that. And I realized this was my entry film into Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Again, it goes back to when we started this whole podcast. Oh my gosh, I'm tying it back in. When I said you sometimes watch sequels more than you watch originals. Yeah, that's right. I saw Texas 2 before anything else, and the beginning of the movie was the highway and the radio station, and then you're in it. And so because of that, maybe it's a little nostalgia rating. I don't know. Does that influence our rating system? I don't know. Maybe.
Sometimes.
It would be a binge later if I didn't have so much history with the movie. Binge now, just because if you're going to complete your rounds with Texas Chainsaw Massacre, 2 better be on your list. Okay, let's see what else is going on. Oh, are the fans chiming in? Not this week. They've been kind of quiet. However, voicemails. They sent us some voicemails about weird movies, which was our last run of movies. Now, since we're in horror movie season, what are you watching for Halloween season? So send us little clips, voicemails, whatever. Get back to us about the horror movies that are on your playlist this year. Let us know what you're tuning into and whether you agree with our rating. Who knows? Maybe you don't like Texas 2. Maybe you like 4 or 7 or the original, or you don't care at all because you're one of those. Who knows? Staff picks. If you watched a movie that's not the movie of the week and you want to share it with everybody, what do you got for the class tonight, Jordan?
We both watched Talk to Me.
Ooh, starting with the good one.
Yeah, that was so good. So good. Yeah. You start.
Well, no, I just wanted to say, like, to give people a little set the imagery for them. Like, if you ever wondered what's on the other side of a Ouija board interaction, this movie shows you what's happening on the other side.
Which is cool. No, that's such a good way to put it, right? It's a very unique concept of like you're going on to the other side, right? When you're doing like a seance or, you're doing your Ouija board. Yeah. But no one really talks about like what you see, and so they initiate essentially speaking to the other side and they hold this hand and they ask for them to let them in.
Well, okay. I'm not going to take sides of the argument or facts or fiction. I'm just going to say they have historically said something very creepy. You're never talking to the intended person on the other end. Who you're trying to dial up through that technology or witchcraft or what have you.
Right.
Or it's just a Merlin or what is it? Milton Parker? Is that the board game company? Milton Bradley. Or it's just a Milton Bradley board game, folks. The classic thing that I've heard around the campfires, you don't know who's on the other end.
Right.
Yeah.
This one, you're essentially kind of seeing, obviously, who you're trying to probably speak to. Like in this movie's case, she doesn't really know that she can.
You know what? After we said that a couple times, I got the.
Did the hair stand up on the back of your neck?
The temperature in the room just dropped 5 degrees.
Like I can see.
The temperature on this podcast just went down 10 degrees.
Stuff get knocked off the table back there.
Play back the recording. There's a third voice on the microphone.
Ooh, super spook. I don't know. It's just wild. It was really good. It definitely got ramped up when she let the little boy take in the ghost, and that was just wild.
Mistake.
Yeah, big mistake. So, yeah. Ooh.
They used a classic storytelling device. They have the ticking clock, but they put it into if you stay connected with the other side for more than 30 seconds, you get like possessed for life or something. So it's kind of a crazy way to amp up the stakes. Also, they don't know all the rules. It's another interesting. They don't know how the mechanism works, so they kind of fumble, and it causes many hardships. We don't want to give it away. It's like there's too many things we could devote a whole episode to that movie, and maybe it'll come back it'll be in the playlist. But definitely add it if you're looking for an interesting idea, an interesting concept. I'd say take a look at that.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna drag some movies through the mud.
Oh, do it.
Okay. So, it's a dangerous thing for Screambox to give us the keys to the kingdom because they don't know what we're gonna do with it. And listen, I have started to say that I like Screambox better than Shudder. I've only watched Shudder a couple times to review movies in the last year, and I pay for it every month, and I never go back to it. And then Screambox started kicking out this cool stuff. But they made a mistake. They're gonna fire an intern. They're gonna sacrifice him to the gods of Halloween.
Bum bum bum.
They wrote no embargo on your review of Heebie Jeebie TV. Oh my gosh. Don't do that on a show like Binge-Watchers Podcast. Because I want to spoil it, y'all. Here it goes. Binge now, binge later, binge never. It's a big binge never. Oh yeah. It actually imitates the kids that are watching TV in the original Halloween, and then you can't. I mean, they're spinning this tale that it's like Rick and Morty's multidimensional cable. That's like a great skit show on Netflix called "I Think You Should Leave Now," to even dare treading on Pee-wee Playhouse, references, and like, no, you can't.
No.
It's the closest in tone to Goosebumps, the TV show, and not the movies with Jack Black. However, please do not waste your time with Heebie-Jeebie TV, and forgive Screambox if that's the only thing you've seen of theirs. It's not fair. They actually started screaming the Robotech documentary. Robotech? Yes, Robotech, which is also Macross, which is an anime. RoboCop doc, the RoboDoc thing that Screambox distributed, is also running on Amazon now. So that's how good the documentary is. I'm trying to sing the praises of other things because, again, they've kicked over like 6 screeners to us, and this is the only one that I can't really be positive about because they made too much of a bold claim of what it was supposed to be in comparison to, right? Mm-hmm. Then I was talking about in the headlines how they dropped Totally Killer, which is a time-traveling murder movie, and we've been talking about that one, like the slasher movie mixed with Back to the Future. We've been dropping that for talking about this movie like for 6 months. We've really built it up. It's been on our headlines like 3 times, I think. And it's also a binge never. I want my 90 minutes back.
Damn.
I do.
Damn.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm sorry. If it wasn't free on Amazon, I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have watched it already. Hey, it's called Totally Killer, and it totally sucks. You can quote me. And I don't know. Maybe this is gonna end up in the blog. I just don't know, guys. Don't know. I'm like threatening people with a bad review. I'm like, you made my nipples hurt so much that I'm gonna just. They're sore and chafed. If I have a bad movie experience, I have a physical reaction. They're chafed and sore.
Chafed nipples.
Yes. That's what happens.
The
Ninth Gate of Hell opens up while I'm watching movies, and it's a Hellraiser situation over a bad movie. All right. But talk to me. Yeah. So that's 3 movies. We've only endorsed 1. Sorry. That's just... It's freaking October, man. Leave me alone.
It's how it shakes out sometimes.
You're like, it's just the way the cookie crumbles.
Yeah.
What's going on? Let's see. We've covered everything. We've either convinced people to watch Texas Chainsaw 2 or never to watch it at all. And we've just sacrificed a couple movies in the staff picks exclusives. I can't wait for the emails. Send them to Jordan's cat.
Yes, it's. You guys should know the email by now. It's frank@bwpodcast.com.
We actually have access to a werewolf movie that we're going to be talking about next week, and I have high hopes for that one. We'll find out. Also, come back. We're talking about this alien outer space horror movie. I don't know if it's an invasion or just like a monster movie, but it's called The Deadly Spawn. In the past, it wasn't available, but it's starting to crop up again. So we're going to dig into that classic, The Deadly Spawn, and we'll also be talking about some kind of Screambox exclusive that has like a werewolf in it. Yeah. I don't know, Jordan. What do you think?
I'm ready for it. I'm ready for the shaky shivers. With ghosts.
Trying to scare me again at the end of the show?
Yeah.
Repeat terror?
Yeah.
you can't see it, or maybe you can. Up here, there's a top shelfy type thing. What I'm showing you folks is there's a little extra, usually after the ending song, and we just are telling you extra details. There's a shelf here of pops, and they've shifted. We'll talk about scary things. Why did my pops move? Okay. Okay.
I seen it.
That's means more credibility than just seeing something. If you've seen it, you've past tense the seeing of it all, and it's just to be taken that much more serious.
Yeah.